Welcome to episode 31 of the Pit Box Podcast. We're back again with some more F1 content today. The season just started this week, and it's time to get back to it. So, as you guys will see if you're watching on YouTube, we have a guest with us today. I got my boy Myles on.
Hey,
What's going on, guys? Follow me, Myles Brown 222. What's up?
Shameless plug.
Making his Pit Box Podcast debut.
Yes.
And of course, we have Seb and Chris, the usual
Yo.
suspects over here, ready to get back to it. So, yesterday, first race of the season, Bahrain, under the lights, and it looks like we actually have some things to talk about today. Pretty cool. So, of course, if you're a Red Bull fan, fortunately, if you're not a Red Bull fan like I am, unfortunately, Max walked away from the field again, making it look like just about any other race of last year, except for like Brazil and Monaco, since he won damn near everything. And then, of course, Checo followed him up in second place, per usual. And then with the third place, we wasn't expecting this. Man who's been on almost every team on the grid.
Yep.
A two-time champ, 99 podiums. Alonso, back at it again. Now, this is something that I wasn't quite expecting, admittedly. Now, in preseason testing, everybody was saying, hey, this Aston looks pretty good. And I said, we'll see what happens next week. And sure enough, next week came and the car looked good. If you pay close attention to the sport, you'll know that over the off season, Aston had actually picked up one of Red Bull's aero guys, like someone that used to work with Adrian Newey, and that's why the car kind of resembles a Red Bull a little bit. Similar concept. Clearly, the man didn't forget what he learned when he was at Red Bull. And then also, the thing that's kind of funny is that they were able to beat Mercedes, and they had Benz parts on the car, like the suspension. They used their wind tunnel, and they were able to beat them. Now, of course, Lewis had finished fifth. Lance had finished, Sir Lancelot had finished right behind him. And then old Georgie boy was right behind Lance. Other than that, some of the other noticeable things that happened, McLaren had a terrible day at the office. The control reset on Oscar's car just straight up didn't work. My man came in, they gave him a new steering wheel. Admittedly, that was one of the quickest wheel changes I might have seen, even though I think his mechanic fumbled getting it on the quick release a little bit. But then I don't think he actually moved out the box. Like, he kind of just sat there. I was like, all right, is the car going to restart? Will I see any fumbling with the switches? Will anybody here do anything? No? Okay. Fine. So then that was in his day. And then Lando's in the pits. Every 5 laps, man had like 6 pit stops practically. Hydraulic issues. I'm like, what are they refilling over here? They're refilling the hydraulics with what? Like, like someone just walked over with a can to the back of the car every 5 laps. And then he goes back out. You gotta come back in. Okay. And I'm like, all right, well, this is a waste of time, but whatever. So then the only other noticeable thing, Pierre had a really good day in his first race with Alpine. He gained like 11 positions. Pretty sure he finished in the points. You know, he started right at the back of the field, which is pretty impressive, especially when you debut with the team. But obviously, the main event was the moves that Fernando had put on both George and Lewis and Carlos, because he dusted them. Besides that, speaking of Ferrari, Charles seems like he had an issue. I don't think it was an engine problem because the engine was still on.
I believe it was some sort of electrical issue. And I actually heard that it's a pretty big one. Like basically what happens is whatever they replace, you only get 2 of them a season. and before you start getting penalties. So
Oh
they
wow.
replaced the one before the race started, and he still pooped out like around like the last couple laps of the race.
I didn't even know
And
that.
yeah, so he already has one of those replaced in the beginning of the season. He has one more before he's going to have to start doing penalties. And yeah, so not a great start to the season for sure. Not what he wanted.
Now, personally,
But
I
yeah.
think most of the parts penalties in F1 are a joke, anyways, because they all end up having to take penalties for the end of the season, anyways. So I kind of feel like they should rewrite that rule or give him another engine, whatever. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so for the most part, to summarize yesterday, if it wasn't for Alonso, it would have been a relatively dry race, relatively uneventful. Max is so far ahead of the field. Again, it looked like
Right.
last year. And
I was
he,
about to say, I feel like they stopped recording them too.
yeah, because there's nothing to say.
It was like, all right, see you later,
There's
Max.
Yeah,
nothing. There's
they just
nothing.
let him drive. Like he just drove pretty much. He
He
did
could
his
have put
thing.
one of us in that car, and we probably would have won too. So, so like it wasn't really much of a race for him. But yeah, but what I really want to talk about, obviously, is Aston. So, as already said, they have some new people at the team, not just someone from Red Bull, but I know they poached somebody from Mercedes as well. I can't remember who.
Really?
Mercedes parts. The car is looking good. Do we think their pace will be sustained throughout the season?
Yes and no. I think they're gonna have a pretty good season overall. Like I think this is probably gonna be one of their better seasons ever, and hopefully they'll be able to carry this momentum on. I like seeing the green card pace around, but honestly, I can't imagine Mercedes and Ferrari are gonna like take that much more. Like, I remember one time I heard from, I think it was like 2015, where they developed the car to be and I'm talking about Ferrari. They developed the car to be like a second and a half or like close to 2 seconds faster by the end of the season, like overall. And they still were like a second or so off of Mercedes. You know what I mean? So I think they're gonna develop the car okay, but Mercedes and Ferrari are gonna develop this car like nothing. You know what I mean? Like they just have the resources to do it. Aston Martin does too, but they still haven't built their factory. Correct me if I'm mistaken. So I think they're going to do their best, but I can't imagine that. I think they're going to be the best of the rest. That's what I'll say. I think they've kind of taken McLaren's place. That's where I feel like.
But let me ask you this though. Clearly, if Red Bull's the best, do we consider the rest second place on?
Damn.
Kind of. I think in my opinion, there's first place, Red Bull. Obviously, they're first place. Like, you know what I mean? And then there's kind of, I think Ferrari, I guess, is that second, like pretty clear of Mercedes. I think Mercedes is still third in my opinion. Aston Martin, hear me out, guys. Hear me out. I saw a little people like
yeah. Nah, elaborate.
look,
I'll let you finish.
Aston Martin is definitely quicker at the moment, but like Mercedes' team, like you got to remember they literally won like 8 team championships, like like back to back. Like they're gonna outdevelop Aston Martin like circles around them, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And I think it's not gonna be too long either. Like within the next couple races, you should see them like, they're gonna battle with Aston for a little bit, but I think they're more of like a subtle annoyance at this moment. We'll see. We'll see though. Who am I to say? But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Seb, take it away, my guy.
I don't know. I mean, I am no F1 engineer by any means. I'm not a basic engineer by any means, but judging by the Mercedes pace, I feel like they'll represent the top half of the midfield alongside Aston Martin. I don't know. I feel like they may have taken a gamble with the no side pods. I think that like their design strategy might be kicking them in the ass right now, and it's making them a little hard harder to catch up. And I feel like that's the type of commitment you have to do to like the philosophy of a car that you have to go full send for, because you're basically designing the rest of the car behind like the no side pod strategy. I don't think it's working for them. I don't think it worked last season. I don't think it's going to work this season. I think when you hear Lewis Hamilton's radio message at the end when he was going to Parc Fermé, he admitted, he's like, we have a lot of work to do. We had a good race. It wasn't where we want to be, but we have a lot of work to do. And like, you can just hear the tone in his voice by going like, just thinking like, yeah, okay, they definitely aren't at the pace where they used to be, where you're seeing like Red Bull right now. Like, honestly, we should be seeing Red Bull and Ferrari go toe to toe like we did when Lewis's championship got taken from him. But I don't know. I think Aston Martin is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I have to give Stroll a lot of props. I'm usually critical of the kid, but judging by him getting into that injury and then him pulling out to like really hold it down at that race, that was impressive.
That was impressive. Yeah,
sure.
He almost really screwed it up on lap 1 when he almost dive bombed into a lot.
He did. He locked up.
He messed up on the formation lap.
Sketchy. Little.
It wasn't like he legitimately hit Alonso. Now it wasn't an airstrike, but he did hit him.
Right.
I mean, he hit him pretty hard. See, like honestly,
yeah, enough to make the back wiggle, man.
Yeah, like I'm surprised nobody's like axle got like, you know what I mean, taken out. Like that's really all you need in a car like that. But apparently that car's pretty strong compared to some of the others. I mean, I feel like if you would have hit a McLaren and that car would have, you know what I mean, like
the whole dive plane would have just blew up.
Like
these new F1 cars are tanks. We saw Alonso catch air, land, hit a wall, and then still finish in the points. Like I don't know what you're building the cars out of, but these things are strong as hell.
Very true. Yeah, you couldn't do that to a Haas.
Yeah, no, they would have been in pieces.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been cut, done.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would definitely say that, you know, with Red Bull in its current position, based on the way that they performed last season, I would say that there's a lot of catching up to do with the other teams as far as driver development and car development. As far as who we'll see in, like, I guess the front pack, so to speak, I still think it's going to be, you know, the Red Bull, the Mercedes, and Ferrari. I think the one that's up for debate is definitely the Aston Martin. I feel like, yes, they have a well-developed car, but the drivers themselves still have to kind of prove themselves to be that consistent, high-performing level driver that the other teams have. So I'm curious to see how it all unfolds, honestly, throughout the season, because his first race definitely gave us a really good taste as far as, you know, how well the Aston performs. I mean, if you saw that pass, of course, everybody saw that pass that's watching this, hopefully. And if not, run the replay, because that pass was actually sensational. You know, he tried to go for it the first time. Lewis wasn't having that, but then he hit it with a different approach on the following corner. It's rare to see a Formula One driver try to go back-to-back corners, making an aggressive move like that. So definitely, like Steve said, that was the most exciting moment of the race for sure. You know, the rest of the race, it seemed like the guys were mainly cruising around. And honestly, I was a little bit upset at, you know, where Hamilton was placed. But now I can see, as you guys are mentioning, as far as where their vehicle stands relative to the others, they're kind of not in that same threshold that they used to be with Red Bull, kind of like what Seb was saying earlier.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think especially I think at least for the first half of the year, Aston's definitely going to be up there, because it's going to take Mercedes probably like 5 races. I think they said Imola is when they'll probably have like a real upgrade. So sure, the car will continue to improve, but everybody's car will continue to improve until that point.
Right.
It's, you know, it's one thing to close the gap to Ferrari and Aston, and then it's another thing to make that leap up to Red Bull. And when you're talking about, you know, Mercedes, is championships and nothing. No one cares about finishing 5th. You bringing home trophies or what?
Right, exactly. It's all or nothing.
Yeah, and like with Aston, again, like just seeing the passes that Alonso was able to put on both Lewis, George, and then Carlos, and then to pass Lewis and Carlos, and then dust them. It's like no. This is a legitimately fast car. Because if you look at the pass he put, well, the first pass on George was pretty damn nice, but then the pass on Lewis, that really showed like how much grip the car actually has.
Yeah, that showed the car performance for sure. I
That
agree.
was the
You know,
toughest,
like
that's
that
the
nine.
toughest corner of the whole circuit, and he pulled it off there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in that 9-10 section, like
Mm.
typically you would take that line that Lewis took, that
Right.
wide line right on the edge of the marbles, and then cut it in because you got the long straight there. But for Fernando to be able to just dart in on him, he didn't lock up any wheels or anything, got the car
Nothing. No wheel
rotated,
slip.
and then hit the gas and was able to bounce. It was like, yeah, like that's a legitimate race car right there. And one of the areas that Mercedes was talking about that they struggle is actually putting the power down coming out of the corner. And you can see clearly, even though Aston has the same engine and the same rear suspension and like the same gearbox, like it's it's working for them, which I know Mercedes got to be a bit embarrassed that they got beat by someone using all their stuff and their wind tunnels.
Right.
You know, but yeah, like that showed how good the car is. And then even if you look at Lance's performance, while Lance both has moments of wow, this guy can really drive, and then you have moments of wow, this dude needs to be on the couch with me. He considering this dude has like what, one or two bad wrists and a broken toe to be able to drive the way
And
he
he's still driving. That's crazy.
like, all right, like that's a good car right there. Because that's not Jesus driving that car, but
No.
that's a good car. It's a good race car.
Yeah.
And you know, again, with
I think it's also really good on its tires too. I mean, like that's one of the things that's really important is like when you get that one race where, you know, Verstappen, you know, he doesn't get to qualify because they have to make some sort of crazy change, or you have some sort of situation where Perez gets off or whatever. I think that Aston Martin for sure right now will be there. Like, you know what I mean? I think like it's definitely the dark horse car of the season for sure. Like just because of how good it is. Like you see how it started to go through the Mercedes and through the Ferrari, especially the Ferrari, because we all know that the Ferrari's not really good on those tires anyways. You know what I mean? So that car just alone, like yes, it's quick, but being like good, like quick throughout the like a race stint is so important. And I think that car, that's why we're seeing like, you know, it'll because that car was really making more passes throughout like the later parts of stints. You know what I mean? I felt like right where the cars where you see the tires starting to wear out and they're not necessarily setting like purple sectors anymore. You know they're just kind of getting into like a race groove where that car is just like continuously going. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's where they really like did their thing there. Like the car is just good in terms of like drivability wise. Like it still feels good after lap 20. You know what I mean? Like where maybe a Mercedes or a Ferrari might feel like a pig, you know, after so many laps, where on the first lap it felt great. You know what I mean? So I'm very curious to see how they run into different like races and stuff. Like what I'm very curious to see with Aston is how they do at Monaco. You know what I mean? I feel like if they qualify well at Monaco, then we can say it's a fast car. If they qualify like 10th in Monaco, then I feel like we know where it really is. You know what I mean? Or 8th or so like that. You know what I mean? You know, I'm very curious to see what it does there, because that really shows like where the downforce and like where the not only the downforce but the what am I trying to say? Help me out here. The corner
aerodynamics.
Huh?
Aerodynamics.
No, not the arrow, but also
corner speed.
What is it? Corner speed? No, it's basically the way the car is without aerodynamics. I'm trying to say
straight line speed.
its ability to
No,
turn
it's mechanical grip. You're looking for mechanical.
grip. There you go.
Right.
Steven.
To the rescue.
Oh boy. That's where we'll see, like, I think where the car truly is. I feel like I'm very curious to see where it does there.
I think to be a little bit premature there, I think we'll see that in Baku. And I say that also because Baku is one of my favorite tracks, and it's also I think it's third up in the roster this year. And it's also I think McLaren also have a huge upgrade package, like a massive upgrade package for their car for Baku. And I my fingers crossed for them because I think everybody knows they need it. But to your point, yeah, I think with that track, considering that it's like going to be the first track that's like a street track where you're really going to be tested, like drivers are going to be tested in terms of their like technical ability, just because that even the castle section in itself, like Charles probably or it still has PTSD from that section too. So to your point again, like even with the Ferraris and considering their abilities there, like it seems like they've got another car that's really strong in qualifying, but when it comes to race pace, they just don't have the reliability there. So
yeah, definitely.
Now, just to clarify the schedule, next up is Saudi Arabia. Hate that track. Then we go to Australia, then Baku,
okay,
then Miami, then Imola.
You don't like Jeddah?
No, I think that's the stupidest track ever. For multiple reasons, I think that track is stupid.
Wait, all right, hold on, real quick. Sorry, sidebar.
Yep.
Jeddah or Miami?
I'm digging Miami too.
Miami. What?
Sorry, our overseas friends. No hard feelings.
I don't even like racing Miami on the sim.
Bro, I don't even think Saudi should be on the schedule. Give me a real track.
For real. Just pivoting back real quick. I'm pretty sure everybody started the race on the soft tires, no?
Except K-Mag.
Yeah.
K-Mag. How do we feel about that?
About
do we feel like that there should have been more drivers that started off on the harder compound? Like, for example, do we feel like maybe Lewis could have had a competitive advantage if he started off on the harder compound because the degradation would have been less over time and he would have had to push his pit back? Like, do we feel like that would have changed the race at all, or not necessarily?
I feel like when you it's kind of hard. That's a hard one, right? Because I mean, if your car isn't very quick, then you need to just be kind of as quick as you can to fight the car in front of you. Like if your car is already slower and you're gonna start with like maybe, all right, I'm gonna be slower here and then slower at the front, like or not slower, but maybe try to get quicker later. I don't think it really works anymore, like how it did maybe back in like 2012 or so. Like, you know what I mean? Like you had like 2 tires to run with, where now you have 3. You know what I mean? It's like I think the strategies are just a bit different now, and like the way the red tire is now, the soft or the super soft or whatever they call it now. I think the role that tire plays is much higher than it used to be. You know what I mean? So, you know, it really depends. Like the leader, I think too. Like I think the leader of the race really like the faster guys, it really depends on what they're doing. And then like you guys need to kind of figure out what you guys are going to do. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm sure that like if they saw Red Bull going out on mediums, you know, maybe that would change the strategy a bit. But at the same time, maybe everybody would go back on softs and try to take a nab at Red Bull. But I'm sure like Ferrari would have definitely went out on mediums if they went out on mediums. You know what I mean?
100%.
Maybe Mercedes would go on softs thinking they could have a chance. But they probably would go on mediums too. And then like you'd start to see a little bit more variation. But you saw Red Bull do it, so we gotta be there. We gotta be as close as we can to these guys just in case something happens. So, you know, that's why I think they did that.
I don't think it would have made a difference just because of how far ahead Alonso was over Carlos and Lewis. I think if it was close, like if they finished right on each other's bumpers, then it'd have been like, all right, well, you know, maybe if we switch the strategy in the beginning. but Alonso put it on him. He kind of smoked him once he cleared Carlos. So
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it would have made an impact if it was like, done immediately in the beginning of the race. I wonder if it would have had the same outcome, or if it would have had a different outcome. Just because, in the beginning of the race, for the most part, turn one, everybody's just looking to clear without making any contact. You know what I mean? So you have a little bit more time to kind of wear down the harder compound to get into that grip threshold. You know what I mean? In comparison to the softs, where it's like you're kind of starting almost in the threshold of grip level, like right off the bat.
Yeah. And everybody came out, and on the softs, and like I think everybody started coming into pit around like lap 12 or 13 or
Right.
so, which is weird. Definitely, I think you're kind of onto something there for sure, because like it used
See
to
what
be
I'm saying?
it used to be like people would start out on like the kind of whatever tire was next for the race. Like even in qualifying, they would qualify in Q1 with the softest tire, and then like Q2 they would do like whatever tire they wanted to run, which was usually a somewhat harder tire but still pretty soft.
Right.
And then they would go out for Q3 back on that super soft tire again. But I think it's just the way the tires are nowadays, especially since they're completely different than they used to be. I mean, now you have like an 18-inch rim. You know what I mean? Is it 18? It could be bigger now, right? I think it's 18.
But
Now the tires are just different. You know what I mean? So it's a different philosophy that goes into that, and then also the cars are different too. I mean, they use downforce a completely different way. So
I think
you also have to take into account that Bahrain's surface is a bit more abrasive and
absolutely
aggressive than like the regular Grand Prix track, or even the street surface that they go to. But
right.
Yeah, a lot of people went straight to hards right after that. So,
yeah, like everybody's computer had the same program for fastest race time.
They all had the same algorithm.
Yeah, so hard. Okay, but yeah, and you have to use 2 different compounds at least during the race as well. So yeah.
Is it? Oh yeah, 2, like the one you start with, and at least one more.
Yeah, you gotta use 2 different compounds. I know for qualifying, they had a particular rule about like you had mentioned how they were using different compounds throughout qualifying. I can't remember what the rule was, but they changed it now, which is why they pretty much just use softs all of quality now. But,
really? I thought they had it like Q2 was like what you started on.
It used to be that. It used to be that.
Really?
So it's not regulated the same anymore?
Yeah, I think they changed it because I think Charles might have started on a fresh set of slicks, whereas everybody else had at least a few laps on it, I believe.
You need a fact check.
Gotcha. Yo, while you Google that real quick, let's just talk briefly about Russell's commentary, man. Homeboy was getting a little frustrated, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
In the beginning of the race, he started yelling on the mic, like, "What's going on?" I think he had to. I think that showed a little bit of a driver immaturity, and I think, in my opinion, he should have exercised a little bit more patience. Waited for a potential window, or kind of like what the announcer has said, continue to apply pressure to show the team that, hey, maybe we should make a switch if necessary. I felt like that was a little bit. I don't know. Maybe premature for him to kind of go off on the mic like that. What do you guys think?
It was very Yuki of him.
Yeah, that did remind me a little of Yuki.
I think he's a really good. Me personally, I don't really mind it as much. Like, yes, I like Lewis is my hero. So like, any sort of like backlash to Lewis, I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what'd you say? Like, one more time? Like, you know what I mean? But I think Russell is a very like, I think he's very slept on. You know what I mean? And I think he's a very like, he's up there to me with like Verstappen and Leclerc. Like, in my opinion, some people might disagree, but I think he's up there. And I mean, honestly, the cars you still get like a wake effect behind behind another car. Like it's you're not really. I don't think they're really ever gonna get rid of that. You know what I mean? Like it's always gonna be kind of a function of just how it works with those cars. I think just like high downforce cars, just because one's going through the air and then the other one is trying to do the same thing. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I think it's okay for this driver who's coming up and to like look at Lewis like when he first came in like 2007, how he treated Fernando. Like he did not back down to him. I don't think George Russell should waste his opportunity in a fast car to be the second guy. You know what I mean? I think he should try
Right.
every time almost he gets a chance to try to get in front of Lewis, or try to really do what he can to beat him. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest. I think F1 is like it's a momentum sport too. You know what I mean? Like Red Bull is going to continue to win because they have the momentum. I think. You know what I mean? So I think it's the same with the drivers. It's like the better you do, the more backing you get behind you, and the more people kind of, oh, look at him, he's great, he's a winner. And that, like, I think that plays into it a bit. You know what I mean? I think you need
Right.
to go up against the 7-time world champion and test yourself, push yourself. You know what I mean? So to me, I think he needs to be showing that he's just not going to play Lewis's pedestal. You know what I mean? He's not gonna do that. I don't think he should. You know what I mean? I think he should be present, speak up, which he does. I think, you know what I mean? I think he should speak up for himself, and Mercedes right now needs to be able to like get back to where they were. And I think you're going to need someone to kind of take charge. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Lewis can't do that. Obviously, he's done it before. Why not again? But maybe a fresh new take on it is what they need. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay. Seb, how you feel?
Yeah, I think to your point with the momentum thing, F1 is definitely a sport that relies heavily on driver confidence. So like the more pace you can put behind that car, I think it's directly correlated to the amount of confidence you have, not in just yourself, but also the car. I think we saw that with Alonso very clearly this race. I would have to agree with you as well. I think there's a lot of pace behind George. I don't want to yet put him in the category of a Verstappen or Leclerc just yet. But I definitely think I still think he has a little bit more to prove in order for me to put him up there with those guys. But he definitely has the potential to get there. I think this season is going to give him the good stage to prove that.
Yeah.
But I think overall he had a decent race, but just curious to see how he continues that momentum. And yeah, like Chris, good point. Like the spiciness on the radio, like what's going to happen after that? Like, is he going to continue with that? Like, is that him like, speaking with his chest and like trying to like shove his elbows out there a little bit and try and like make his voice known? Or was that just like outright frustration that he just couldn't channel? And, it's
Right.
first lap of the race. Like you got what, like 66 more laps to go. Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the part that I was really harping on was mainly how quickly it happened. You know what I mean? Like I felt like he needed to exercise a little bit more patience, continue to apply that pressure, not lock up, and cause potentially a flat spot on the tires, and conserve his tires more and just patiently wait until he finds that gap. I definitely agree with Myles as far as, he's definitely developing as a driver, and having Lewis as a teammate, it almost forces you to be at a certain level because you're with one of the greats. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you're driving with the same team. You have to perform at a certain level. So I just felt like, I don't know, maybe it could have gone like a different way, or maybe he could have exercised a little bit more patience. Steve, tell me how you feel, because I know Lewis is the man, is your man.
But look,
Let us know.
George is a dog. Right. That's a dog right there. Listen, he has the ingredients to be a champion. of course, only time will tell if or when that'll happen. But I wasn't even necessarily that mad about the message because I'm thinking about it like, okay, he has Lance right behind him. Obviously, we're aware now that that's a fast car. Even in Lance's hands, which his wrist is broken, the car is so fast and the broke toe,
Right.
and it's still faster than his car.
Mhm.
So I mean, I was thinking about it like, all right, I don't know if Lewis is not going all out to try and preserve the tires because obviously for Mercedes, their tire wear is a bit worse than Aston. So I'm like, I don't know if he's taking it easy. And of course, like that's backing up George, who is then backed up into a faster car. So I kind of just took the messages more so, yo, tell my man he got to step it up because I'm
Right.
starting
Hit
to
the
get
gas.
pressured now.
Okay.
And, you're
Okay.
going to make me a sitting duck.
Yeah, which he
That's
seemed to do. It seemed like he did
Interesting.
get, he moved up a little bit further, or
He
maybe
did.
not moved up, but like he's, you know what I mean? Like he
did
didn't
start driving a little faster.
He
Yeah.
acknowledged it. He was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, he did start driving a little faster, and then George did lock up, which that gave him all the space. But Lance ended up getting past him anyways, which he would have because the Aston was just the faster car on the day. So I wasn't really like offended by what he said. I didn't really look too much into it. It was like, all right, well, he got a fast car behind him. He's a slow car, a sitting duck. He's just trying to make this as hard as possible for Lance to get by. And really, it wasn't like, all right, well, he's
Okay, gotcha.
being too aggressive, whatever. Like, bro, he's racing. Like, he's a dog. Like, if you've seen how this man races, like, yeah, he's with the shenanigans.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially watching him come up from Williams, like, you know what I mean? Like he's done his dues and I think he's ready. Like, you know what I mean? I think he's ready. I think honestly, if you put him in like a fast car, like I mean, think back to what car was he in? Was it the W11 or was it the 12? I think it was the 11, right? That George Russell he got a chance to drive
Oh, yeah,
when
it
he
was
first
11.
got COVID,
It was 11.
and he was an absolute animal, dude. I mean, like
Yeah, he was killing it, yo.
He would have won the race.
I mean,
Yep.
I think if you like honestly, all these drivers are animals. That's why they're here, right? And I think
Yeah, they
like
gotta be.
you give these drivers the car that they need and they'll do it. You know what I mean? Like George Russell, he's worthy, in my opinion, of a championship. I think he's ready. He needs to just get the car under him, just like a lot of drivers in the field need a better car under him. But I am definitely curious to see what they do this season for sure. I think this first race, you'll see the first race of the season and kind of think, wow, this is the order, this is how it goes. And then like you finish the season, you're like, dude, this finished completely different than what I thought.
That's a good point too.
It's a long season. A lot of time for things.
Time will tell for sure.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Logan Sargent, the American rookie. Homeboy had a great race. I think he started 16th on the grid. Ended up, I believe.
Ended up 12th. Yeah, I think 12.
Yeah.
He made places. He kept it clean in a Williams. So, like, hats off to him. Debut race, did a very good job. So, curious to see what he's capable of for the rest of the season, too. And Albon also had a great race, too.
Yeah, Albon did pretty well to finish. And, like, what a big boost that has to be for Williams to finish first race out the gate with points. Like, okay, we got points. Like, usually it's like, dude, we got to, like,
it's usually rare.
Almost over. We got to get at least 1 point. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but literally, like, starting out the gate with a point is, like, so big for Williams, I think. Like, I'm very happy for them. I'm very curious to see where they go. I'm sure it won't be that much higher, but I'd like to see them, like, fighting again, doing good things again. I can't, like, even say podium. I can't even say it. But I would like to see them there eventually one day, right?
Yeah.
Their car looks really boring, but other than that, hey,
True.
go Williams. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
a lot of the cars are pretty boring. I think this season, a lot of the
I
cars.
noticed that too. I felt the same.
I felt like
The
none
liveries
of
are just
them
not
really
doing it.
impressed me. Like the Mercedes was kind of cool, I guess.
Kind of Batmobile-ish.
Yeah, like, the Mercedes is probably the best one out of the season, I think, just looks wise. But the Ferrari kind
I'm
of
glad
gave
they
me the
didn't go yellow. Thank God.
Oh God!
Whew.
Shout out to
Jesus.
dude, the banana color that they did
Not
that
it,
with,
bro. The
I
internet
see like
annihilated
reels,
them.
like TikToks and reels of that, and I'm like, yo, they look awful. Like, you know what I mean? Like they look really silly. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I hope they don't do that again. But yeah.
That was their
Seriously.
anniversary. It was like however many years, we got to be the banana crew at Monza.
Now looking like a group of minions out there, dude.
Yeah. Not even they pulled the Mario Kart where they were letting the banana slide out the back real quick, catch and spin out.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough.
Oh man.
I mean, like literally, like, and I don't know, Verstappen. What do you guys think about? What do you guys think about this championship? Who's winning? Who's winning it?
Do we have to talk about this? I'm about to end the show.
I know, like,
I was about to say.
like, I was like,
Oh God.
That's all, folks.
Like, what kind of question is that, man?
I know.
How you gonna come on my show asking me about Max Verstappen? Have you not seen a previous episode before?
I actually haven't seen your previous.
Oh my God!
Oh damn, that's a double slap. How about?
You gotta listen to this song. You can't come on the show asking about him. Nah.
It's gonna be your first and last show, Miles.
All right, wait. Hold on. Yo, Miles, let me help you out real quick. How do we feel about Perez and Verstappen?
Grand opening, grand closing.
Where's the little white flag?
Yeah, he finished like I'm looking at the computer now, like 12 seconds back from Max, so that's not great. I mean, yeah, that's not good. I mean, like it's not horrible, I guess, but like you definitely, the thing is oftentimes you see Perez fighting for like third and then like from third or like from fourth or something, and then gets to second, and it's like that was a great race, like woo, vamos, like like we did great, like it's like you
Vamos,
like
and
he's like, I'm still fighting for the championship, like I don't know, it's like, dude, you gotta start like first or second and like win races. Like you need to be able to fight Max, because to me I think Perez is a really good like driver, like not even just like pace wise he could do like definitely do better, but like this is a driver that can make overtakes, like you know what I mean, and like I feel like this is a driver that can like do special things around like with a car, like very aggressive like overtakes, from the outside at times, and just doing crazy stuff with a car.
Done some of that
like,
before.
That consistency and pace, like, it's just not on Max's level, and it's like it's really tough. Honestly, too. I don't even think like I wonder if Red Bull would even let him be as fast as like honestly. Hear me out. Right? Hear me out. Why would that? Like you know what I mean? Like let's say there's a point like where Sergio is just like all of a sudden just quicker. You know what I mean? Maybe he's like driving faster. I don't really think the cars like why would that car be anywhere near as quick as Verstappen's? Like I don't really know. Look, I don't really think that's how like F1 really works. Like I don't know if it's really true. Like why would a number one team like for like something like Alpine, yeah, the cars need to be like
dead even.
But like why like I'm not saying Red Bull is like this. I'm not saying their cars are like this. I'm just saying like why would they not be like this? Like you know what I mean? Like why would one not be just a little bit quicker? Like you know what I mean? Like to me.
Look, I'll answer your point, and then we'll close the show out because it's that time. But I'll say this: between those two, it's very obvious, as you alluded to, who the faster driver is.
Yeah.
Last year, we saw like early in the season, the car did suit Sergio a bit more than it suited Max. And then as they continued to develop the car more towards what Max liked, we saw exactly what happened to Sergio.
Yeah,
So,
they're gonna develop it in a certain way.
Headshot.
again, like Sergio's a real good driver. He's there for a reason. Obviously, for Red Bull, you would put someone like him in the car next to Max as opposed to someone who's even faster, who would then really challenge him and disrupt the flow of the team. That's typically what you would do in most F1 circumstances. But yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to phrase it, Max pretty much has him covered. He ain't losing no sleep over him.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I don't know. I don't. At the same time, though, I don't think he's like a Bottas. You know what I mean? Like I don't think. I think he's quicker than him. You know what I mean? Like I think he's like I don't know. I am very. I feel like he should be quicker. Like I feel like there should be a little bit more from Perez. You know what I mean? But it is Max Verstappen at the same time. Like we are talking about a guy from the jump that was like that just is who he is right now.
Guy was bred to race.
At the top.
I'll leave it at this. I would say that in order for Perez to step forward to dial up the volume to like 11, we need to see him applying more effort as far as driver development and feedback to the team as how they can improve the car to tailor it more to his skill set, the same way that Max is able to do. When he could do that type level of communication, I feel like we could see him in a completely different position. But until that happens, I feel like they're not on the same playing field when it comes to that category.
I think last year he did because he spoke about how the car was going further and further away from what he liked. But when you're the driver, that's kind of just what it is.
Yeah, sure.
Like, sorry, bro.
I think in my closing statement, I'll just say if we can all remember what Danny's last season at Red Bull looked like and how close he was to Max and how, I mean, even if you want to go back to think about Max closing the door on him at Baku at turn 1 and him just going right back into the back of Max's car and they both DNF'd that race. That season, and then I think that was also the last time Danny also scored a first at Monaco as well. So that was a car that suited both drivers and both drivers had immense ability. Danny was just second fiddle to Max and they were favoring Max very clearly in terms of strategy. And Danny did not like that because the dude was a veteran Red Bull driver. Like, why not put some respect on him, right? So that's ultimately why he left, because he realized that the team was favoring Max overall. And then once he left, and then I think it was Albon that took his seat right after that. At that point, why cater a car to someone like Albon when you have like a potential like legend like Verstappen inside the car? Like favor him. Albon can learn whatever he needs to and make the car work for him. Obviously, that didn't work out in the end.
Yeah.
And then you had Pierre have the same problem as well. And then now you have Checo. Just like I think with him, it's just like
I see the trend you're labeling.
You see what I mean? Like
yeah.
They're gonna design the car to the guy who has the best chance to win it, and then at the end of it all, when you look at who needs to take that seat, they went for someone who has immense experience and someone who was out of contract. So Checo was the best bet, and it's working out. But you're right, dude finished 12 seconds behind Max. Like that shows you the disparity in cars, and it might also show the disparity in pace that Checo has. But it's still, even if Checo comes in at P2 and he's 12 seconds behind Max, that just also shows how quick that Red Bull is.
Seriously.
Because they still finished another like 20. They both finished like Perez is like another 20-something seconds away from Alonso. You know what I mean? So
that's a good point.
It really doesn't matter anyways. Like, you know, he could really just kind of like he's gonna get paid. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna at least maybe get 1 or 2 or 3 wins out of the season, right? And I mean, I would assume so because I mean, first of all, we know Verstappen's probably going to DNF at least one of the races, you know, Not saying hopefully, but like
No, hopefully.
he's gonna have at least one of these
Finish
races.
that one.
Cars just aren't. They're F1 cars. They're just complicated cars. He's gonna have something happen, and that's where that Sergio's supposed to pick up the pieces, right? And I think that's just kind of at this point, that's just kind of his role right now. You know what I mean? And I think he'll do that. Like he is the driver that's going to do that. So, he's going to cross the line and be, yeah, I did it. Like, woo, like, he's always very happy there. You know what I mean? As he should be, I guess. But like,
I'm willing to bet Steve has a Max Voodoo doll somewhere.
Low key.
Listen,
That brujeria.
we talk about Red Bull all too much. Comment below if you guys want us to hear more F1. Well, if you want to hear more F1 episodes from us, we have some other things coming. It's going to be a good year. You'll see more of us. The usual. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We're out here. Let us know what you think.
Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Okay? Do it for me. Do it for Steve. Do it for the love. Do it for the culture. Come on. Show some love, baby. It's free.
Yep.
It's free.
We'll talk to you guys in the next one.